film that takes place in the late 1970s in a small suburban town of Beaumont, Georgia. Beaumont is a quiet town because the minister banned dancing and loud music years ago because he lost his son along with 4 other teenagers in the town in a car accident. Because of such tragedy, the minister outlawed the loud music and dancing, and everyone obeyed by the laws until Ren McCormick moved to town from the city. He was set on revitalizing the town along with getting the attention of the minister's daughter, Ariel. The movie accurately portrays how important family and religion was to the suburban societies. During the 1970s, there was a large population increase, especially in the Sun Belt region. White middle class and upper class suburbanites were fleeing to the south. During this time, Ronald Reagan was also campaigning for his 1980 election. Ronald Reagan played a major role in the increased suburbanization because his campaign implemented the importance of family and traditional values. The well-known yellow Volkswagen Ren fixed up in the movie is historically accurate to the cars that were present in the 1970s. The 1970s was known for the disco. In the school dance on the last scene of Footloose, there is a big disco in the center of the dance floor. One of the big things that the movie portrayed very accurately was the big impact on music and dance in the lives of the people during this time. Aside from disco, funk, and several types of jazz, rock and roll was one of the main genres in the 70s. No matter what genre, music and dance in the 70s was a way to express one's self. As we can see in the following clip, when Ren was angry, he expressed his emotions through dance. The clothing seen in the movie was not accurate to what people wore in the 1970s at the time. The wardrobe portrayed in the movie was modernized. In the 1970s, it was common to see bell-bottoms, peace signs, and bright-colored clothing. One of the major inaccuracies in Footloose was the wide acceptance of different races. Although the advancements made in the 1970s to end racial discrimination were big, it is difficult to say that the equality and acceptance of blacks and whites intermixing was as accepted as portrayed in the movie. There was indeed federal action taken in the 1970s to end discrimination and segregation of blacks and whites. For example, the Loving case in 1967, Virginia v. Loving, a black woman and a white male were put in prison for 1 year for marrying each other. The Supreme Court ruled in their favor and ended race-based legal restrictions on marriage. Overall, the stance on racial equality portrayed in the movie was exaggerated and not entirely historically accurate in that sense. Overall, it is safe to say that the movie Footloose is more historically inaccurate than it is accurate. The actual storyline itself is obviously fictional, but the racial equality portrayed in the movie is also exaggerated, along with the clothing that is different from how it actually was in the 1970s. The 1970s will always be loved and cherished for the upbringings of new forms of culture, social changes, and most of all the music, dancing, and fashion trends of the era.